you're going to need your hat, some glue. I prefer liquid stitch, but you can really use anything that sticks and it's going to stick well. Scissors and fabric. Fabric choice does matter. You're going to want something that when you tear it or cut it, it will give you a little bit of a frayed edge. It just looks better. And so one way you can test is get your fabric. See, you can already tell this one is already frayed, but we will start with cutting just a little notch in it. It makes it easier to tear. Cut a little notch at about the width you want to use. And then all you're literally going to do is just tear. Just like that. As long as it frays, you're good to go. And a lot of sheer materials can be difficult because they fray too much. So it does matter, but just test out what you like. Length doesn't necessarily matter because you can continue down the line, and I'll show you how to do that. But longer is better. So we're going to flip our hat over because I'm going to do this on the underside. And then to start with, just pick up your strips. These can be different widths. Just pick up your strips. These can be different widths. It doesn't really matter. Just depends on how you want it to look. And you can use different types of fabric, different colors, mix and match. But we're going to lay them just like this. And then I don't trim all the way because I like to leave a frayed edge. So all I'm going to do is just trim just a bit right here. Take two. You're going to get your glue. I'm using liquid stitch. I like that I can just use a paintbrush to apply it. You don't need a ton, but we're just going to start here at the edge. If you want it to stay straight, that is difficult. Make sure that your hat is straight and lined up. I use the crown, but I usually end up getting it crooked. It's not a big deal. Just make it look intentional. So we're going to add just a little bit here. And then I like to take my brush and I'm going to paint all the way around and make sure I get really into this edge here and just get a good coat up against that edge because that's where it's going to come up more. Take my strip, lay it on, and make sure you leave a little bit. If you're going to have a fringe going around, make sure your end strip here has some excess room hanging over. There's my first one. And then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to do another strip. And you don't need to cover the entire surface with this. You really do just need like one little strip. I pretty much just use my brush to get into these edges and to start the other ones. You can kind of wiggle it, you know, just spread it out a little bit. But the edges are really the most important part. Leaving some room that doesn't have glue is going to give you some more lift on your edges to keep more of that distressed frayed look. So we're going to again just layer here, make sure I leave extra on the ends, and then push down along the center. I don't pull it tight or stretch it out because I like the ruffle look. I just leave it loose and just gently glide it down the center and then make sure my edges are smushed down. Actually, when you get to the middle, I tend to just put them here and line up here. And then when I go back in at the end, I will cut and trim around. One thing I have found that helps with keeping it straight if you don't want it crooked is go ahead and give yourself one right down the middle. Like this. And then actually I'm going to leave this one long. I'm going to go right here. And right here. And then I think I might actually add another one right down here. Just again, this helps give you a little bit of a guide because when I did this before the last time, I did it just from start working my way over and I found that I was slightly crooked with the hat brim. Okay, now I have a little bit of a guide. This part, and I will kind of show you guys this part. I like to take a little bit extra. And this is when I will use my brush, a little bit extra, and I kind of get really right down in on this edge. I'm going to add a little bit more here too. You can see where this just lifts up, and when I go to cut, that's going to make it difficult. So if you add a little bit more glue there along this edge and push down here, you can go ahead and start to create your seam that you're going to cut later. Another tip I have is that if you are like me, some days my hands just do not want to do that tearing. Today, I'm glad I have all of these pre-cut because I don't think I could do the tearing. If you have a laser, you can cut the strips with your laser. You won't get the fraying, but just take your strips and rub them either along your jeans, a slightly rough surface, or you could just take it along the edge of the table and you're going to rub it just like this back and forth, and that will fray that edge for you. And you want to make sure you overlap just a little bit on each one so that the hat doesn't show through. Obviously, it's not going to just fold down right here without coming up along these edges. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take my scissors and I'm just going to cut some strips just like this, just to help give it some give. So now that we're done, I'm going to make sure all my edges are nice and glued down. But the next step is going to be to just trim. And like I said, leave a little bit extra. I like the ruffled look, so I just take my scissors like, just hold them the right way. I take my scissors like this, and I cut about just a couple millimeters higher than this edge. If you feel like you can't keep it super straight, that's okay. You can kind of use the hat as a guide and just cut at like a tilted angle. My hands shake, so that is the easiest way for me to do it. Also, these scissors are great. They are a spring action scissors, and so if you are like me and you have issues with your hands, autoimmune stuff, low mobility, they help a lot. Regular scissors, my hands struggle with a lot of days. I think my husband picked these up at Hobby Lobby. Fun fact, he had actually bought me a really nice pair a while back, and no matter how many times I told them, don't use my scissors, my son and my husband used my scissors and they broke them, and I was so upset. So my husband had to go out and find me a new pair, and now they don't use my scissors because I threatened to stab them all. Not really, but I did. Now the inside one, let's go ahead and cut this off. I'm gonna use my brush and just make sure that I get all the way up to the hat band seam. It's okay if you get a little bit on the hat band, the fringe is going to cover it up. Also, it dries clear. Also, these are handmade and life happens and it doesn't have to be perfect. You can start wherever, but kind of use the inside edge of your hat band to start trimming. And this may take a few rounds. Make sure you don't cut the strings on the inside. I make sure mine are hanging down. I'm just going to go back in. I do these scissors backwards every time. I'm going to go back in and trim. If you have smaller scissors, probably work better. I know they make curved scissors and I keep meaning to buy some and I haven't, but if you have them and you like them, let me know. And I just take my nail. You can take something rough, probably the edge of a scissors, but even just your nails or just your hands, and hold my edges down and just rub them with your fingers, really. So I've got my edges frayed, and after this, the rest of this last touch-up glue dries, I'll go back and do some final touches. But one other thing that I do now is I'm going to hold it upside down and give it a shake. I'm going to shake off your extras, but it's also going to show you where your long strands are. And so I take my scissors, kind of hold them flush with the fabric. I don't know how well you guys can see, but and cut off any of the super long strands hanging down. All right. So now that I have it done, I'm going to let this glue dry. And then one last step I have found that helps is after everything is dry, everything is trimmed, and it looks just the way I want it, I'm going to take a clear coat spray. You can use any, I recommend a matte clear spray. Mod Podge matte clear sealer works great. And I'm just going to take it outside and lightly spray over this. And that seems to help harden off some of these edges so it doesn't continue to fray a whole lot more than what it already is, and it just kind of keeps everything looking rough, but not too rough. So that is how you add this. And then I will make hat bands out of this to match for the top. I'm going to be adding some blue to this design. So I will just take these and kind of fold them over and bring them around and tie them like this with the rest of my bands that'll go on it. But I'll make a separate video for that. So let me know if you guys like it, and don't forget to like and comment and share, as that is what drastically helps shows our content. Thank you so much.